Right, we've got a 2003 BM3 Z4, 3 litre this one, but I think the 2.5 litre has the same arrangement. And the problem with this one is that the auxiliary drive belt tensioners and the air compressor tensioner, we're not sure, are squeaking. So you get this rattling and ticking noise when it's ticking over, and it gets gradually worse. Now if we look at the front of the engine, you can see the arrangement. We've taken this base panel off here and look up there and you'll be able to see all the arrangement of belts. So I'll just point them out to you now. I'll find something to point with, a pointy stick. So obviously this is the air conditioning compressor. There's a separate belt for the air conditioning and a separate tensioner. There's a tensioner here which could be making a noise. There's one over this side on the main auxiliary belt. There's one here. This is the tensioning pulley which is on the tensioning arm, and there's one up by the alternator on the top. Okay. Now the belt is quite long. I think it's nearly 2 meters long. It's a very convoluted path that goes through the main auxiliary belt. So what we're going to show is just taking these belts off, and then we're going to change the belts and then take the pulleys off and inspect them. Alright, so it's much easier to do this from underneath. There's very limited visibility, and also to get the wrenches on to adjust the tension from above is quite difficult actually. Unless you've got the radiator removed, which would make it somewhat easier, but if you haven't got a ramp like we have, you might have to put it on roll-on ramps, roll-off ramps, and lie on your back and do it, but it shouldn't be too difficult. But so we're just going to run you through. You can see the arrangement. So we'll start by taking off this belt. So what's this noise that you can hear?
Sounds like a squeaky pulley.
What frequency is it? I can't hear anything at the moment.
Hear it.
You're right, I'm listening. Keep working. Tick noise. That.
Pretty short. Pretty short there.
Oh yeah, aircon just... That's I think. Not that one, is it?
Like just a little
Just the frequency is like...
It's quite... It sounds like a...
Not that one. Okay. Have a listen to there. I'm looking for that one.
You know what?
What? You can see it.
I think it's this one.
You can see
It's
it.
that one because it's moving.
You can see it catching, can't you?
It's that one.
Yeah.
We're going to change that one. So that's good.
Right, so the first thing to do is to take off the belt which is driving the air conditioning pump. You can see that this tensioning pulley here, this one, is on this rotating spring arm. You can see a big coil spring inside here. I don't know if you can see that, can you? Can you stay in focus? It'll stay in focus up that close. Yeah, it will. Yeah, so there's a spring in there, and here look, there's a socket for a T60 Torx driver. So you can just put your spanner in there, and then we need to have the spanner on assemble if you've got a rigid spanner on tightening, and then just pull down on with your arm to take the tension off the belt, and then ease the belt off the pulley here, off the air conditioning pump. And then don't let it slip, and then that's your belt removed. Let's have a quick look at the condition of this one. Can you see that? There are a few cracks in it, but it's generally fairly new, I would say. It looks newish to me, but some cracks. But they will run for a long time with lots of cracks in. There's a bad one there, look. Okay, so that's that belt off. And then transferring our attention back to the pulley. This one is running nice and smooth, I think. Don't try and second guess which one's making the noise, because we've done this once already and we thought we knew the bad one, and we changed the bad one. You can see this one up here, and if you can get that, is a new one which was put on a couple of months ago, but it wasn't the only one that was having a problem. So be prepared. I mean, if you want to do it once and for all, then change them all. Get in there and get on with it. Right, so now moving our attention to this belt, we've got to take this belt off. Now, noting the arrangement, it might be worth spending a moment just looking at where it all goes, because it is an issue getting the thing back on if you don't have the correct routing, obviously. So this time, this is the tensioning pulley here, and the one in the middle. You've got the bottom one at the corner, you've got the main engine pulley, and the one above in the centre is a tensioning pulley. And the actual actuator for that, to actually reduce the tension, is a bolt. It is on this car, it's a 16mm bolt, and again you can need your spanner on Titan, and you just slot that onto that bolt there. Can you see okay?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
I might get a better view from over this side, actually, filming up through there. Just cut. Don't need to cut it or anything. Okay, so here we are. This one's quite a bit more pressure is required, so make sure it's on properly. Then you pull the pulley over, hook the belt, and then release. And when it goes back, it will go a long way, so mind your fingers when you go to release it. Okay, so now we can take off this belt. It's kind of sandwiched in there. Yeah. The pulley is swung back and actually clamping the belt against the other pulley. It's that much travel on it. So make sure you pull them out. There we go. That's it. So I'll get a look at this belt. This one is much more knackered. Is that focusing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this belt is overdue for a change. Okay. So that feels good. That's the one we greased up last time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've still got a slight noise, much improved since we changed the top pulley. But this pulley we took off, we washed out the bearings in the parts washer and span it, and it sounded rough, but we didn't have a part, so we just fully re-greased it and put it back. So we don't know, but we suspect, I can feel some play in that one, we suspect that's the one that's making the noise. Certainly not as smooth as that one. Okay, next step is to take the pulleys off and have a look at them.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to show you how to take the tensioners off. So you need a screwdriver, and this plastic cap needs to come off, so you just literally leave it behind the cap and take the cap off. Put it to one side. And then to remove the pulley, it's a normal right-handed thread. You need a T50 Torx tool, and you just put it in there, and hopefully it's not too tight. Tighten the thread though. Just film to the end. I've cut this boring ratchet out. Make me look like the fastest ratchet man in the world.
Speed it up.
God, there's some thread. Now, you know, you see this bearing in there? That bearing from a bearing supplier would be £3 or £4. Possibly you could, rather than paying 20 odd quid for a tensioner, you can actually press it out. It's only pressed in, it's not insert moulded.
Yeah, see.
So this is the bolt we've taken out, and there's a tensioner. It doesn't matter which side it goes on, there's no direction of rotation or anything else. And it does look like that bearing has been insert moulded into there. You can see the outer race is actually inside this lip, so you couldn't get this out without machining off that lip first and then pushing the bearing out. And would it stay put in that case if the lip was missing? Debatable. Anyway, so there it is. There's if you hold Not really making a noise, but there is quite a lot of play in there. You can hold the centre shaft and then rock this. You can feel, I don't know if you can see that movement.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to see that movement, and if it's like that, then you should change it. So that's how you take each pulley off. So we're going to take the rest of the pulleys off, and then we'll come back to you. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll come to shortly. But what we had originally was a pretty bad rattling noise, which was from this pulley at the top. We took these off and checked them, and they weren't too bad. But today we were expecting to have to change this pulley and this pulley. But having looked at it and listened to the noise, we were getting a kind of squeaking, clicking noise. So it's fair?
Yeah.
Difficult to explain the noise, and we didn't know what it was. We checked out this tensioner here, and this tensioner was fine. Then this tensioner here, we noticed that when we took the belt off and put the spanner on, that when we moved the tensioner with the tensioning spanner, we could feel it wasn't loose. It was kind of got some stiction in the bearing. So we removed the belt again, removed that tensioner using the bolt underneath and the bolt on top, and then we sprayed some graphite grease inside and then some WD-40 to wash it in, and it made the whole thing move much more freely, and the clicking is gone. So we fixed the problem. So we didn't need to change the tension, there was no play in it, it was just needed lubricating. But we did blow it out with an airline afterwards to stop any of the extra oil coming out onto the belt. So I think that's a successful zero cost repair actually. Good job. So there we are. And the other thing I forgot to mention was when you've got the belt off, just get hold of the water pump pulley and rock it back and forth, because if it's play in your pulley, then you need to change your water pump. They're quite cheap, but it's quite easy to change. So check your water pump too while you're down here. So my advice is, if you want to check to see these are okay, wash the bearing out, take the rubber seal out the inside the bearing, wash them out and then spin them dry, and then you can tell instantly whether the bearings are very bad or running smoothly, and then repack them with LM or high temperature grease. So that concludes the video. Hope you found it interesting. If you're working on your Z4, then good luck.